Okay, welcome back from those videos. Okay, so how did that hit you? For one thing, I think that we need to be able to have a conversation about sin and fall and our brokenness if we're ever going to have any conversations about healing. But I also think that it's easy to avoid. It's a topic that's really easy for us to kind of want to just rush past, and yet there's been, I want to say it was Thomas Aquinas who said that we'll never understand the depth of our grace until we understand the depth of our brokenness. And sometimes, though, it's easier to understand someone else's brokenness, right? It's I think sometimes a lot easier to look around and see the places where other people have done things that you can clearly see are wrong. And everyone likes to point out Hitler and the Nazis and as if they're the unforgivable people. But the truth is it gets a lot closer to home, and it's not difficult to find places where folks have maybe treated you really poorly, where folks have just treated someone someone else that you don't even know in a really bad way. Folks who do things publicly and sometimes they're just wretched. But I think that if we're willing to be honest, we start to see a couple things. We start to see that boy, there but for the grace of God go I. That all of those things, the jealousy, the hatred, the pain, the willingness to betray, the selfishness, all that stuff is just as much in us. Maybe we just haven't either A, had the opportunity, or B, had quite gone to that far degree of doing something really horrible. But of course, that's the trap, isn't it? That we can really easily say, well, I'm not as bad as that person. So maybe they're sinning, but I'm not. But see, that's where the Bible really gets us, is it's like, no, you don't understand. Like, if you're guilty of one piece of the law, you're guilty of all of it. And so to recognize that it's the seeds of sin, it's the diagnosis of that sort of big S, that this is in our hearts. This is the thing that is genetic to us, that we are born with it. I remember Chuck Swindoll once said, like, if you don't think babies are sinners, have you ever seen a baby who just is crying and nothing's wrong? You see, they're liars. Like, we come out of the womb and right away we're selfish, we're pampered, we only want to do what we want to do, and we don't want anyone else to tell us otherwise. So if we can get to be honest about that kind of thing, then all of a sudden it allows us also to realize that we need help, that we need something that is beyond our ability to control, something that is beyond anyone's ability to give us, to get us out of this mess. Now, that said, what Christ talks about isn't just about behavior modification, right? So sin management doesn't work. It doesn't actually save anybody, because what Paul would say, we all fall short of the glory of God, is that for all of our best efforts, for as a good a person as we can get to be, which is to say, if we can control all of our symptoms, it doesn't matter because we're still sick. That sooner or later, that nature of the fallen Adam and the fallen Eve is just going to come out somewhere else. And so there is no way in which we earn our salvation. There's no way in which we satisfy the law just through doing the right thing. And this is, of course, the condemnation of the law. One of the things that Paul also says is that before the law, there was no sin, or at least no guilt. And it was only that the law itself made us aware of our sin that suddenly we were accountable for it. And so that's also true where we understand that the law is written on all of our hearts. We talk about Lewis, who would say that everybody understands from a incredibly early age the notion of fairness. And not only do we understand it, but we appeal to other people as if they obviously understand it too. Hey, that's not fair, is a way for us to say, like, we all agree that there is such a thing as fair, and I expect that we should all abide by it. But even that ability to say so, even that ability to appeal to a higher law, recognizes that that law exists within each of us. So the degree to which we know about evil, about murder, about adultery, about lying, about stealing, even though different cultures may disagree on the specifics, they agree on the big picture. And that's a notice that the word of God, the law of God, is also written in our hearts, just as Paul says. So anyways, that's the topic for this week. And I hope it's sobering. We never want to stop here, but we don't want to skip it either. We have to talk about sin and the fall if we're to contextualize everything else that's going on. But the sobering thing needs to be that this is serious. And as Isaiah says, like, you treat my people's wounds as if they're not serious. Like, this isn't just kind of, wipe your nose. Like, this is the state of the entire universe, that it has fallen from God's grace. And that's what Jesus comes to work on. So I hope you enjoyed that, and we'll be back here with some more fundamentals and more Tempus Divum in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.